Colleen, you are the prettiest gal, even in Zoom.
We're going live.
Okay.
We're live.
We're live.
We're live.
Susan, right before we went live.
Hit it, George.
Hello, folks. It's the Podsquad with George Oliver, Susan Moffat-Thomas, Wendy Card, and yours truly, George Oliver. I did not do that right. Okay. Hello, folks. It's the Podsquad with Colleen Roberts, Susan Moffat-Thomas, Wendy Card, and yours truly, Rich Sheridan. Thank you for joining for New Bern Now's podcast for June 25th, 2020, episode 147.
Oh, we're connecting you with the community by talking about the people and places in New Bern and beyond. Join in the conversation. Let us know if you have any questions or announcements by commenting.
Speaking of Rich, how is Rich? Does anybody know?
I think he's okay. I haven't seen him in a while, but we've had a couple of texts back and forth. He's a big fan of John Prine, and there was recently a tribute concert for John Prine, and he was telling me about that. In fact, he let me borrow the most recent John Prine CD, and he came by and picked it up a few weeks ago. I think he's okay. I think he's well.
Good. We miss him. Wendy Card, how are you doing?
I'm doing. Yeah. I have an announcement.
Uh-oh.
Are you asking, like, are we going around the table?
Well, sure. What's going on, Wendy Card?
I need to find my announcement. Where did I put it? Why don't you move on to Susan? I don't know what I did yet.
Well,
Hi,
Wendy
Susan.
digs around. Susan Moffat-Thomas, we haven't seen you in a while. It's good to see you.
I know.
How have
Well,
you been?
it's great to be here, and I've really been very busy. I mentioned, I think, the last time I was on here that I was being tutored by John Lawrence to sell on eBay. What an interesting, challenge that is. It is not just a snap. There's a lot to learn, but I am loving it. I am selling things.
Good for you.
And I am, I've collected all my life. I love collecting things. But, there comes a time when what you have is all you want, not all this stuff everywhere else. So it's a joy to be, selling that stuff and putting it online and keeping my brain going. They say as you get older, once you master like crossword puzzles, then you need to go master something else, not just keep doing the same thing. So I'm hoping the challenge of eBay will keep my brain going. Plus I might get rid of some things. So that's.
Are you selling all your own, Susan? Or are you selling for other people?
I've got, you wouldn't believe the stuff I have collected, and it's stuff you don't want to just throw away, but and you don't want it hanging around all the time anymore. So it's a joy.
Like those ducks behind you. Tell me when you're going to sell those. Those look nice.
Sorry, George.
Look at the eBay auction, right now.
Yeah. I would bid on those.
I didn't know you could see them. I don't know what you can see in here, but anyway.
We were just talking about.
Yeah, there's just one other thing I want to mention is the Historical Society that Kathy has mentioned before is recording some of the Lunch and Learn programs that have been well attended and really are relevant to our community. And I had done last March a presentation at Coleman Hall on the Renaissance of downtown New Bern. And I was really thrilled to be asked if I wanted to do it where it will be on Facebook. And I think you're going to talk about that a little later, but it will be on Facebook in July. So I'm real excited about that because, as you all know, the Renaissance of downtown New Bern is an outstanding story. And I think people never stop being amazed at just how important the private sector has been in that effort. So stay tuned.
July 29th at 2 o'clock. You can go to the New Bern Historical Society Facebook page and watch that with Susan. They have lots of other
Oh, you already have that date. Okay.
great presentations coming up that will also be streamed to Facebook. Kathy is, or the New Bern Historical Society is one of the biggest users of City 3 TV, our government access channel, and we allow nonprofits and organizations to post announcements. And she just sent me all of the topics and the for the Facebook streams that are coming up. And I saw you on there. That is a very popular presentation. I think one of the things that makes it so interesting is you have a collection of photos of the way New Bern used to be like nobody else.
And isn't it hard to imagine? I mean, even when I look at those photos, it's like, was it really that bad? And it was, because I, was here when it was. But I mean, the transition is just fabulous.
I always like looking at your photos. So about how long do you think that presentation lasts? Just curious.
The one that I did at the Coleman Hall was about 1 hour and 15 minutes. And I tried to keep it shorter, but the fact is, in this presentation, I didn't start like in the 70s. I went back into the early part of the 1900s and how this all came about, not just in New Bern, but why did the revitalization effort actually become so powerful across the country? So I got into some of that. So it made sense how this evolution took place. So it took a little bit longer.
Fantastic. Some of the other ones that are coming up are the story of Ghent, presented by John Lays. Kathy's been talking about that too. That's July 22nd. Then we have Susan's on July 29th. We also have the Great Fire of 1922, another popular subject for New Bern and our history. And that's presented by Carol Beckton. That's July 15th. And then New Bern Then and Now, our town's history in photos. This one is by Jim Hodges, though, and that one is coming up on July 8th. So all kinds of stuff for the New Bern Historical Society.
And I don't want to belabor all this and take up too much time, but I do want to say, that in spite of COVID having a tremendous impact in many ways, good and bad, I think that people have risen to the occasion to not just sit back and let the world go by, but they've taken what I think ingenious ideas in coming up with ways to keep things moving. And what the Historical Society is doing, I think, is an example of that. They're not just going to sit back and just not do anything. So here people can still see and learn and watch and participate virtually, which I think has been really outstanding.
Fantastic. George Oliver, what's going on in your world?
Well, speaking of that, things you can do to, in the COVID world we live in, and just generally 2020, woes that have happened. Our family band has obviously not been performing very much publicly, but we did get to the Bank of the Arts a couple of Saturdays ago while they had the streets open for restaurants, and we were able to play and have some fun there. We've also been recording. So we have been recording with friends. Brian DeCamp and Arlen Tart are two of the teachers at the kids' school, and they've started a recording studio in a storage unit. And we've been going for the past month or so recording, and our goal is to do 50 songs this summer, and we're almost done. We're going to do most of our Carter Cash show, and then we're also doing about 30 of our favorite songs to play with the kids, and we'll be releasing those on Spotify later this year. We've also gone back to our Christmas album we put out a couple of years ago, and we're releasing that on Spotify in July, so like a Christmas in July thing. But it's been such a special time with those kids, and with Kat being in college again in the fall, and then Abigail and Addie both going to the School of the Arts for their high school next year. Our numbers will be such that we can't perform anymore. So we're it's this kind of bittersweet time where We just took a bunch of photos with the kids with their instruments, and we want to get these recordings, which are really like a time capsule, together. And with COVID, I mean, most of the things we would be involved with are not happening right now, and so that's given us the time we need to get these songs down. And so that's been a silver lining for us as a family, and a real time with those kids. So that's been really cool.
You couldn't be more right. It's a good time if everybody's kind of leaving the nest, you know?
Right. Exactly. And we have a couple more things planned, like for the kids this summer as this transition happens. And then, you know, we'll probably get together and play on Christmas breaks and things like that. But those times are becoming few and far between. And we always remind ourselves, enjoy the moment you're in, because you don't know how many more moments you'll have like that. And Darren and I, and also the kids, that's really coming home for us now as we, you know, as life progresses and moves and the kids get older and, you know, leave the nest, so to speak. It's been an interesting and a bittersweet time for us.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
All right, Wendy, did you scratch around and find what you were looking for?
I did, but we have two guests, and I'm not sure how, you know, their time is, if they have time.
Okay, you want to let one of them in the room?
Yeah, let's start with Leslie real quick. She's in between things, so let's see.
All right.
I gotta promote.
Wendy is bringing into the room Leslie Tall Manning. She's an author and tutor, so working on her video and audio. We're lucky to get to talk to her today. So there she is.
Yay!
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can hear you.
That in itself is a miracle.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm a little foggy at the moment because this is my writing time. And so I came out of my cave to come into your cave, and I'm going to go back to my cave when we're done. So bear with me if I'm just kind of like trying to get back into real life for a few minutes here.
Well, I hope when you leave our cave, you're able to get back to your cave and actually concentrate.
Always. Never a problem.
Because we have a good time on this Podsquad. So
I know. I've watched it. It's a lot of fun.
You are, before we get to your tutoring, you are an author with a whole collection of books on your resume. Tell us a little bit about you. There they are.
Wow. Woo-hoo-hoo.
Like a big cake. So I've been writing for 20 years. I've written 14 books and I've published 5 so far. I have another one coming out in November. I'm currently adapting my latest novel into a musical, a stage musical.
Wow.
And my agent is currently shopping a young adult. So I've got so many irons in the fire at all times, which is great, you know, because if they say if there's not enough noise, you got to make some. So I try to make as much noise. When things get quiet, make noise.
Doesn't sound like coronavirus has slowed you down at all.
You know, in the beginning it did. I'm a very happy, upbeat, energetic person, and I actually found myself really floundering for the first month, and I couldn't write. I literally could not write. And then my husband, who's a fine artist, said, you know, you're working on a musical and it's happy. And when this is all over and people go back to the theater and whatever, they're going to want happy. They're not going to want dystopian. They're not going to want all this sad stuff. They're really going to want something happy. So that sort of put things in perspective. So I went back to my musical, and now I'm actually in my 3rd rewrite of the
Tell us what
I'm sorry?
your musical. Tell us what your musical's about.
Well, so it's actually adapted from a book that I wrote called Knock on Wood. And it takes place in 1978 and 1994. And in 1978, a young boy named Billy has a near drowning accident at his local pond, leaving behind the people that he loves, going into a coma for 39 days. When he comes out of the coma, the part of him that he left at 14 never leaves his side. So then the book flash forwards to 1994 when he's 30 and he's brain damaged. And he no longer has his girlfriend, and he no longer has the life he had when he was 14. but he can't seem to let it go. He's still in love with his old girl, and he still listens to disco like it was yesterday. And so he's a disco king in his own mind. And then he wins the lottery, and then he ends up moving in with his little seedy brother, and all these things happen. So it's really a book about how all of our journeys are different, and yet they're all so important, no matter how minuscule they seem at the time. So the book has a lot of music in it, and I've decided to turn it into a stage play, into a jukebox musical, which is when you take other people's music and string them together, like Mamma Mia or
Right.
Jersey Boys, or Beautiful, Carole King. So I believe that the disco era, which was my era, was a very important era because it was the first time pretty much in American history when it didn't matter whether you were gay, straight, fat, skinny, tall, short, trans, nothing, color, nothing mattered in a discotheque. You went out dancing, and it was all about the fun, and it was all about the music, and it was all about connecting with people who were different. And so I really try to incorporate that into the stage musical. A lot of diversity. There are a lot of people of color. There's men and women, and all different layers and levels of actors that can take those roles. And I think we've got plenty here in New Bern who could actually take those roles. So hint,
That's
hint.
awesome.
Outstanding.
Very cool. Very cool. I miss disco.
Well, and I just think, a lot of disco sounds the same. So I've had to work very hard to find the right kind of music for each scene, and try to give credit to a lot of the people who were huge, like Earth, Wind and Fire and the Bee Gees, but there were lesser people who really made the disco scene flair. And I want to incorporate all of that and give them some credit. Yeah.
Very cool.
Leslie, I'm sorry, George, you go ahead.
All I said was very cool.
Oh, Leslie, I'll
Groovy.
just tell you how thrilled we are that you chose to move to New Bern. You're so talented, and I know you've received awards and all. And the book that I just downloaded that you've written, Maggie's Dream, I can't wait to read that.
Oh, that's so exciting. That's my historical fantasy. It's very weird, but it really goes into
That's what
Rosie
the reviewers have said.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It goes into the Rosie the Riveter movement, and it goes into Carl Jung and his theory of collective consciousness. So there's a lot of psychology in it. I think you'll enjoy that, Susan. I think you'll
How
like
did
that.
you come up with the plot?
I have no idea. I know, honestly, I don't know where any of my story ideas come from. I don't know. They hit me at weird times. I could be driving, an idea comes to me. They all get written down on Post-its, and then the Post-it that makes it to the desk is the one that gets written next, and the ones that make it to the file usually just die a dusty death in the file. Not enough time to write everything that I want to write. I never, ever run out of ideas, ever. I've been 20 years.
What made you
Wow.
decide to move to New Bern?
So my dad, I'm originally from Western Maryland, and then moved to Southern California when I was 19 to be an actress. I became an award-winning waitress. Woo! So I met my husband many years ago, and we were getting a little bit bored with Southern California. It was becoming so expensive, and the crime was going up, and the freeways were just a little bit too rough for me. And I still love it there. My family's still there, but I was sort of craving something different. And we came here to see my dad in Maryland. He was passing away at the time. And we thought, well, let's get a little bit closer to my dad. We stopped along the whole coast camping. And one of the places we came to was New Bern. Now, back then, 17 years ago, half these buildings were boarded up. These old houses downtown, some of them weren't even livable yet. But we fell in love with it for whatever that's worth. We stopped here to use a restroom at the visitor center. We love the restroom, so we stayed. And now we're in our second house downtown. And I've written 14 books since I've been here. I mean, it's just been incredibly awe-inspiring being in New Bern. George, do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. we love New Bern, and I grew up in Morehead City, so not too far away. But we fell in love with this little town. And before you got on, Susan was talking about her talk about the revitalization of downtown, and it sounds like you were right to that. We didn't move here until 2001, and didn't move downtown until about 7 years ago. And a lot of that work had already been done, and so we kind of are standing on the shoulders of the giants that have come before us and really done all that work to really make this such a destination place for families, but also tourists and creative types. I think New Bern is enjoying kind of a creative renaissance in the arts in a lot of ways, and real fortunate to just live in a town that takes that seriously and finds it important. So
And I
Yeah.
totally agree with you 100%. My husband and I, when we first moved here, New Bern had not defined itself yet. It was going through some growing pains. And then the craft beers came, and then some really cool restaurants and chefs, and then artists were everywhere. And now there's all these local writers who are very talented, and theater people, and like George, musicians, and we're sort of like a mini Asheville.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And I'd like to, speaking of local artists and writers, Michelle Guerin Fly, the owner of Next Chapter Books and Art, is saying, "Hi, Leslie."
Oh,
And she's awesome.
hi,
So
Michelle. She's my twin of a different mother. I mean, we have so much in common, and we just adore each other. And she's incredibly supportive because she's an indie author herself. So she's very supportive of other writers and artists of all natures. Yeah.
So Leslie, I want to ask you, you're also a tutor. So you also, kind of spread the wealth on helping others to become writers and artists as well.
Yes. Well, that I have to eat. So I quit teaching to write. And so in quitting my teaching and tenure and everything else that I had going for me, I knew I had to do something. So I started tutoring, and I've been tutoring now for about 15 years. So I write during the day from 11 to about 2 or 2:30. And then I tutor from 3 to 8, Monday through Thursday. And I've had students at Parrott and St. Paul and everywhere. And I do teach them writing, and I teach them research papers, and I teach them fiction, and we analyze books. You name it, we do it. We do it. It's great. I love it. I get really close to my families.
Very
Well,
cool.
we have enjoyed. Go ahead, George.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, you've been doing it mostly Facebook Live and Zoom and things like that with your tutors, with your kids now, your students?
Well, pre-pandemic, it was in person. And
Right.
then when the pandemic, when COVID first came about, I started doing Zoom. We did have quite a few problems with the Zoom on my end, I think. But in any case, most of the families have allowed me to come back to their homes, but we're all wearing masks, and we're staying separate at each end of the dining room table. So
Right.
we feel very confident and comfortable doing that for now.
Yeah, that has been certainly a real big problem for a lot of folks like that, like you and like music teachers. I mean, I've thinking about that, music teachers have been doing Zoom, and it's not as, it's not real time. It's not hands-on showing a kid how to hold a guitar and that's just been difficult. And so hopefully that'll relax. We're trying to find a guitar teacher for Mason. I think we found a really good one, but he's not going to do in person until phase 3. So
I understand. And
Yeah.
I understand we have to be as, patient as we can be with that,
Right.
I guess.
that's right.
Kids are becoming independent.
Yeah. Oh, they are.
They sure are.
Leslie, I know we can download your books, and they're available everywhere. But tell us, if people want to find out more about you or connect with you, where do they find you?
So they can find me at leslietallmanning.com. That's my website. They can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's easier not to find me. I mean, it's so easy to find me. They can find my books in person at many of the local libraries all over North Carolina, and also at the Next Chapter downtown on Front Street. Let's see, where else? Of course, Amazon. They can download on their Kindle. They can find me at Smashwords, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million online, Walmart.com. I'm really, really, these days, with print on demand, it's made it real easy to download and order and things like that.
Leslie, what would you recommend for someone who hasn't read any of your books? What's a good one to start with? Are there some recurring characters, or Are they each standalone?
They're all standalone, and they are all very different. So one's historical fiction fantasy, one's contemporary fiction, and two are young adult. So if you're a young adult, I would highly recommend Upside Down in Laura Ingalls Town, which just won its second award, and a lot of young girls really love it, ages 13 and up.
Okay.
And then it depends on what you're interested in. You know, you can find on Amazon, they have a little look inside thing that you can click on, an icon you can click on so you can read the first few pages, or you can pop into the next chapter downtown, which I highly recommend, wear a mask, and you can read the beginnings of any of my books to see if they hook you, but they're all a little bit different.
Okay, very cool.
Awesome, Leslie. Thank you for joining us today.
Yay.
We have some other guests we want to talk to too, but you have been a delight. It's so nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Yay.
Thank you for having me. It was really fun. I'm going to go back to my cave now.
Yes, go back to your
Thank you.
All right, guys, stay safe. I love y'all. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Yay. Okay.
I think next we're gonna switch gears from talking about imagination and stories to talking about some improvements that are coming to Eastern North Carolina. Right, Wendy? You working on that?
Yes.
Okay. Miracle King is joining us from the North Carolina Department of Transportation and the Governor's Highway Safety Program. Can't wait to talk to her. There she is. Hey, Miracle.
Thank you for waiting. Thank you.
Oh, this was entertaining. So
You've been hanging out in the waiting room for a little while, right?
yeah, but I'm from Chapel Hill, and so to hear an artist speak about their craft, I grew up in an environment where that was central to the culture of the community. So it's really good to hear someone like that. So, but anyway, thanks for having me.
Sure.
And you're here. Yay.
Yeah. We have been hearing so much lately about the improvements that NCDOT will be making, especially in our area, in James City, and bringing Highway 70 to interstate standards. And so we have a lot to look forward to in our little neck of the woods.
Yeah, of course, as does the entire state. And a lot of what's important about improving roadways and infrastructure is improving the mindset of the people that actually use those roadways, right? Having conversations with Wendy ahead of today's podcast, we talked a little bit about what's going on and the climate of things right now on our roadways. And as you all know, within the coming days, the nation will be celebrating Independence Day. And traditionally, along with that comes celebrations that take people behind the wheels of their vehicles. And a lot of those individuals, unfortunately, are choosing to commute around our roadways impaired. And so when I had an opportunity to speak with Wendy, we really wanted to, talk with you all where your neighbors right down to the south and Havelock are going to be hosting a drive-through community event for us. So I don't want to give it all away, but yeah, that's a part of improving our roadways.
Very cool. And so I understand on many high travel holidays that NCDOT usually suspends construction. Is that what will happen again for July 4th?
You know what? This is what I'll tell everyone participating in the podcast. Go to ncdot.gov, right? There are 100 counties around the state with as many projects and more. So to make sure that they get accurate, up-to-date information, each individual, no matter what community or county they live in, need to go to that website to get the accurate information on projects that are going on in their community.
What do you think are some of the most critical issues in terms of transportation for Eastern North Carolina and the state?
Oh my goodness. Well, as we were talking about at the beginning, so infrastructure is multifaceted. It has to do with not just building the roadways and funding them. Of course, that's what the department and the state as a whole is working on. But again, what each individual is doing using those roadways. And a critical part, and what's central to our motto at DOT is safety first, right? And so DOT has a unit within, has a unit that's within itself called the Governor's Highway Safety Program, which is the unit that I'm representing here today. And the Governor's Highway Safety Program promotes safe driving initiatives. And we use all sorts of partners. We use our partners in health, our partners in law enforcement, our partners in education to help get drivers to do their part, right? And so one of the most critical things, as you asked, in roadway improvements is improving the mindset and the behaviors of folks behind the wheel. So this upcoming week, we are asking people to think about their behaviors, especially coming within the scope of COVID, right? Where a lot of us, like right now, are working from home and we haven't been in practice driving as much. And if we are driving, we're driving right down the street to the grocery or right over to the post office or running small errands. We haven't been behind the wheel as much. But the state has been slowly opening back up. And so we want to remind those that are going to be out and behind the wheel during this season to do their part in improving roadway safety, which is driving sober behind the wheel. And a lot of people, when they hear that phrase, I was talking with some other reporters about this issue today, as a matter of fact, they think that it's like, well, it's drunk driving. I don't drink and drive. That's the last thing I would do. But you might wake up with back pain and you might take a pill that makes you feel better. And you might not think my car is operating heavy machinery. And you might not think that's an impaired form of driving. And so what we want to do during this season and every day is encourage each individual to do their part in improving our roadway, our infrastructure, our system. And what they can do is drive safely. Another part of that is making sure that when you get behind the wheel, you're doing the most simple thing you can do to protect yourself. Buckle up every individual in that car as well. So, and then of course, don't drive distracted. I mean, it's kind of hard not to be distracted with these things in your hand. But the term multitasking is a farce behind the wheel of a moving vehicle. That vehicle becomes a weapon, right? When you allow yourself to be distracted. So those are some of the things that can really improve our state as a whole, and specifically improve the infrastructure in the community that is focused on roadway safety and moving our state forward.
You also have a Watch for Me NC. We should always stay alert, keep our eyes on the road, watch for pedestrians and cyclists, which are two big things we have here in New Bern.
Right. It's really interesting. The Governor's Highway Safety Program is kind of this data-driven unit that focuses on trends and how to address them in different communities. New Bern, Craven County, all of those waterfront communities are so pedestrian and bicycle rider friendly. And a lot of people don't think that is a mode of transportation, right? But there is a lot of onus that is on drivers, riders, and walkers. And some of our data is showing us that the trends are skewing in the wrong direction in terms of pedestrian and bicycle safety. We're seeing a lot of people and vehicles colliding. And of course, we do not want that to take place. So we do encourage people, go to ncdot.gov, or you can also search ncghsp.org. That is also on our website. And you'll find links to the link to Watch for Me. You'll find links to Bike Safe NC, which is another safety initiative focused on motorcycle riders. But there's a lot of information on our website and on our social media accounts that will help people be more aware of what they need to do as people that are riding and walking, and folks that are operating vehicles, what they need to be aware of, watching for those individuals.
Miracle, one of the things that I was quite amazed at when I looked at some of the statistics with DUI accidents was that the motorcyclists seem to have the largest percentages of accidents while driving intoxicated, which astounded me because I would think, in my mind, driving a motorcycle is something you would want to be sure that you were totally tuned in and without any alcohol in your body to be safe on the road. So that was really a surprising statistic to me.
You know, thanks for doing some research, Susan. I will say, you know, individually, I'm not a data expert, but I will say that all folks that are operating machinery, whether they be behind, you know, bicycle, you know, riding a bicycle, a motorcycle, getting behind a car, getting in a pickup truck, you know, going to work in a work vehicle, being impaired can kill anyone. Okay, and so it is something that everyone, whatever mode of transportation that you're taking, every driver needs to do a gut check before they get behind the wheel of the car. And it's not, you know, impaired driving is something that is totally preventable. You know, looking at all the statistics, no matter if it's the one that is causing the accident or the one that's become a victim of someone else's impaired driving, it is 100% preventable, which is why we really wanted to have this discussion today about this upcoming campaign. We want everyone, whatever type of vehicle they're operating, to be aware that this is something that they have control over, and it is something that is not isolated to them as an individual. If you choose to get behind the wheel of any type of vehicle, you're making a conscious choice to put yourself, your neighbors, your friends at risk, not just physically in terms of their, you know, mortality, but from a socioeconomic point of view, an insurance point of view. It makes us all look bad.
Tell us more about this special event that's coming up on Monday.
Yeah, so we're trying to get the word out right now because the activity actually begins on Monday, but we want residents to take some action right now. So the Governor's Highway Safety Program is kicking off what we call Operation Firecracker, right? Firecrackers, it's 4th of July. It's the branding for the annual Booze It and Lose It enforcement campaign. You guys have heard of Booze It and Lose It. And this year, because of COVID, what we're going to do is a community drive-through event, right? And that's going to be on display at the main entrance of Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point, right there in your neighborhood. And what we're going to do is we've recruited law enforcement, we've recruited military, first responders, and they are going to flank the entrance, the well-known entrance of Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point during this drive-through, which is going to include visuals. They're going to have their lights on. Some of them may have posters. And then the marquees out front of Marine Corps Air Station are going to have some anti-impaired driving messaging on them as well. That campaign is going to kick off on Monday, and the drive-through is going to take place from 10 a.m., about an hour-long window. It's a kickoff. That is going to be the ground zero of this event, right? But this is actually a statewide campaign. So law enforcement agencies from across, I think there are about 500 or so plus agencies that are around the state, are going to be increasing their enforcement, increasing their presence, because historically, this week leading up to 4th of July, the rates skyrocket for impaired driving. And so something we want to do a little bit differently this year. Sometimes we have a press conference and we have a lot of officials come together and we let folks know, hey, we're going to be out there. But we really need to get the community involved. And so we're asking each driver, each person that operates a vehicle, to go to the store, go to the dollar store, go to the local Walmart or wherever you pick up your supplies, Michael's, get some window chalk. And we want you to write this hashtag, KeysFreeNC, and show your solidarity with the rest of your community. And basically, this is a visual vow to the rest of the drivers on the roadway that, hey, I'm not going to drive impaired, and I challenge you not to as well. And we want to get that message out as far in advance as we can ahead of the 4th of July holiday, because we know that it's going to take a little bit of time for people to digest, go out to the store, right, really commit some time to do that. And our hope is that people all across the state will just join this movement and commit themselves, because we know that this upcoming weekend, unless behaviors change, unless there is a commitment from every individual, someone's going to lose their life on our roadways this 4th of July, and it doesn't have to happen. So, yeah.
I'm curious, have you seen statistics on a decrease in DWIs or even accidents in the past couple months? Are people driving, or are they driving?
Okay, so I can talk a little bit about, okay, so let me say this. We are a data-driven unit, and our data goes on a fiscal cycle. So we don't have all of the hard numbers, but we do know, that driving has been down, right? Folks haven't been behind their cars as they normally would. What we have seen though, because we don't just deal with impaired driving, we also deal with other dangerous behaviors such as speeding. And we have noticed that whilst the numbers, I guess right around back in May, when we first, the closures began, the stay-at-home orders were in place, we noticed that while the actual traffic numbers were down, the speed, those that were out there actually driving were speeding at astronomical rates. So law enforcement would be pulling over individuals that may be speeding 10 miles over the speed limit, so going 45 into 35, were actually going 65 or 70 because the roads were so empty. Now, it was just like they were going on the Autobahn. They were just flying free.
It's a racetrack.
Yeah, and so I don't know the exact statistics in terms of fatalities and if they increased or decreased, but definitely there were some behavior challenges with drivers during that season. We're kind of coming to the end of that season where more people are taking back to the roadways, which is why it is so important to talk about safe driving behaviors. Right. Again, during this holiday, impaired driving, every day, no impaired driving, every day, don't speed, every day, wear your seatbelt, every day, don't use your cell phone. So those are some of the things that we really hope that your listeners and your viewers on Facebook and any other social platforms will be able to watch this, take this information, and really think about their own individual behaviors.
Miracle, thank you. I think we could listen to you all day long. You are so full of information. Thanks for coming on and talking to us about safety, particularly for the upcoming holiday weekend and the campaign on Monday. If you're traveling through Havelock, it's going to be an exciting time, but with a serious message. So let's all be proactive to be safe over the 4th of July holiday and really every day when it comes down to it.
Yeah. Hashtag KeysFreeNC, right?
That's it.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Miracle.
Thanks for coming on the Podsquad, Miracle.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great day. Bye. Let's see here.
What I think is most amazing is how the 4th is coming up. Does it just seem, it seems unbelievable that we're already at that point in the year.
And we're 6 months away from
Easter.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Colleen, New Bern still planning to do fireworks at Lawson Creek Park?
We are, and we will get folks into the park and socially distance your vehicles, but you're asked to stay at or near your vehicle. There won't be any of the usual amenities in the park like we usually have, such as games, activities, a concert, a DJ, That wonderful, I just love the misting tent because when it's so hot, you just run through it and it helps you cool off on a hot summer day. We won't have that either. Here I'm getting people all excited about it and then telling them it's not going to be there.
Sorry, it's not going to
Bring your cooler, bring your picnic.
There will be concessions there, so you can bring blankets and chairs and that sort of thing. No alcohol, no pets. If you have a service animal, they are welcome. The fireworks will start at approximately 9:15. But it's essentially a fireworks only show. So.
I am so glad.
So behave, George.
Oh, I'll be
George.
It is really good that the city is doing this. So many aren't. And I mean, what's the 4th without fireworks? I'm delighted that the city's taken that stand and moving on with it.
And so, of course, with the governor's extension of phase 2, we hope everyone will wear a mask to come out to July 4th. We learned yesterday from the governor and his team that the extension for phase 2 will last through July 17th. And now there is a new requirement when you are out in public and a list of other places, which is almost everywhere, you must wear a mask now. So COVID cases increasing in North Carolina, and we certainly want to get a hold on that and send them in the opposite direction. So, but yes, there will be fireworks. And, we will see, according to the phased reopening plan, what other events we may be able to do for the rest of the year. But we are going to try out the fireworks.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
One thing that we're dealing with at New Bern Civic Theater, one of the challenges is theaters like the aquarium, Susan, right, are in phase 3. And we had moved Willy Wonka Jr. To September. And we moved Matilda from May to November. And then we've had to cancel a few shows that were going to be in those slots, like the producers were moving to next year. We had to cancel Boeing, had to cancel Memphis. And the Saks Bradbury show, which is the teenage show, is scheduled to start July 10th. Not anymore. They may push that to August, but trying to think, is there an option to have the show played outside somewhere? And I'm asking everybody to think about it, but Colleen, as a City of Bern person, I know there's no amphitheater that's being built at the new park. Is there an option for these kids who've been working on this show for the past several months to be able to put it on for an audience, a live audience, in a way that if it was outside, if people were in masks, if they were distanced? Is there something like that in New Bern that I can't think of?
I don't know, it's worth talking about if it's, the type of event we can host in some way. It's like Susan was talking about at the start of the Podsquad. It's like this pandemic is really forcing us to think about how we can host events in different ways.
Yeah.
How we can...
The Union Point and the
gazebo.
Yeah, using that as the stage,
Mm-hmm. That's a great thought.
Yeah.
And as part of the, I'm sorry, Wendy.
If somebody has any suggestions that's watching right now, please let us know, and we'll get you in touch with George and the New Bern Civic Theater folks. So,
and fortunately, the theater did receive a very generous grant from the Anonymous Trust out of Raleigh to take this show to rural areas in Eastern North Carolina. And that grant is allowing the theater to purchase mobile light equipment and sound equipment to be able to take it on the road. And if we were to do this outside here, fortunately, we'd have the equipment to do it from that grant. So, please, if you have suggestions, contact me, contact Angelina Doyle. I don't know, does the Parks Department have a stage of some kind that could be...
They were actually approved to purchase a mobile stage, which was announced at the Board of Aldermen meeting earlier this week. And Foster Hughes, our Parks and Rec director, says it will be here in a matter of weeks.
Okay,
maybe maybe you'll be one of the first people to use it.
Yeah.
Actually, real quick, I just thought of this. This is Mill Creek.
Jeremy and Marianne LeRae.
Yeah. Farmhouse at Mill Creek, unwind, rest, and renew in Pollexville. Now, I'm not quite sure what the, what it looks like as far as the acreage in that, but who knows? I mean, that could be a little place, but we can definitely look more into the different locations, but
Or
in the
go ahead,
past, I just want to throw out in the past, when, now I think it's wonderful what the city is doing in buying this equipment with the stage. But George, we were able to rent a lot of equipment from the base for events and festivals. They had staging, they had a lot of things. Of course, you have to, schedule it because they use it. But that is always an option, if you're exploring for things to be, or ways in order to have this production.
even if you have to pre-record it, we have a inflatable screen that we've been using for the drive-in movies that we're going to be using again this weekend for the Wizard of Oz.
there you go, Colleen. You solved it.
There is
Problem solved.
There's a high school in Kinston that that had been doing Mamma Mia, and they weren't able to do it, and so they have been doing a drive-in live staging of it, where people are in cars and they're broadcasting it through FM transmission in the car. And I know you're doing that at Park for Movies, so it may be something again that's possible. John Van Dyke, everybody loves John Van Dyke, and such a huge part of theater community here. He says could do theater at Union Point History Center, Triumph Palace Lawn. He also says, "Ooh, what about the fairgrounds? I think they may have a stage there." Very good thought. Okay, this is great.
See all the wonderful things that come out when people are challenged? It's like, wow, terrific.
Yeah.
Everything comes together here.
That's right. And things like they really need to go on. And I'm speaking selfishly in some respects because my daughter Abigail is directing this Saks Bradbury show. But it is a theater festival where they solicited original works from teenagers across the country and had a contest. And they are producing those original works for the first time. And they're also doing a short Lin-Manuel Miranda musical called 21 Chump Street as part of it. But I know they've just spent so much time on it. And I'd hate for them to, if it gets pushed back, and the cast won't be the same. The experience won't be the same. The kids that worked so hard on it won't be the same. I know my daughter's going to Winston-Salem in August for School of the Arts, so she won't be here. And I know she wants to be part of that. So anybody else got ideas? I really appreciate that so far. Appreciate you guys.
639-2901 is Parks and Rec.
Okay.
And we'll get you connected with Foster Hughes, the Parks and Rec director, and see what we can work on.
That's great.
As far as bringing that to New Bern, 639-2901. So,
great.
Wendy, you say it's contest time, right?
Yeah, we should have done it in the beginning, but
better late than never.
Yeah, and there's rules to the contest. I don't see where I put them. Do you have them? Okay, basically, if you comment on New Bern Now's Facebook page, not a page that was shared, because I can't see all the comments from shared pages, but comment what the answer is for the longest river within the state of North Carolina that flows entirely within the state. What is the longest river? And it's 248 miles. So don't answer, George.
Are we allowed to answer? It's clearly the Amazon. Oh, the Nile. The Nile's long.
It's the Nile, George.
The Nile.
So if you answer correctly in the comments, and we're just gonna leave this on here, and then tomorrow we'll draw the number of people that answer correctly out of a hat, the winner, and they'll get a prize. So, and we'll announce the answer next week. How does that sound?
It's a pretty easy question.
Maybe for you, I had to Google it.
A lot of names out of that.
Well, I thought it was a different one because the other one is really long, like probably twice the size, but it's not within the state. You know what I mean? It goes outside the state. So Okay, and I do have an announcement. I'm taking a respite to rediscover New Bern Now's mission. And New Bern Now was created in 2009 as a way to promote, businesses and nonprofits, all the great stuff that was, in New Bern. But that was during the recession. And I feel this is like history's repeating itself because it's kind of similar to that in a way versus without the COVID. And I really want to continue our work, but our founding principles then up until now is promote, not demote. And not that I want to, bash anyone or anything. I just need to rediscover. I need to regroup and I'm going to write, I wrote something here. Personally, I'm struggling to understand what's happening locally and across the country. I'm not sure if I can live up to the expectations that I established 12 years ago, so it's time to re-examine the mission. I need to regroup and find perspective so I can find a way to provide you with valuable news and information about our community without compromising my ethics of doing the right thing for the greater good. I hope it will be a short respite as I'm going off the grid, and into the forest I go to lose my mind and find my soul. That was by John Muir, by the way. So.
Oh, I love John Muir.
Anyway,
Well,
I just want to make
Wendy,
that announcement.
I think when you are in this respite and thinking about the mission, I think you need to keep in mind that in this period of time since you started New Bern Now, you have provided more positive information about our community than any entity I think that has ever been established. You've continued to grow. You've continued, you have thousands of people that tune in. So be good to yourself in this respite, and don't lose sight of how much you truly have accomplished. And we are all the better for it.
And
Susan.
we respect your decision for respite, and we will certainly miss being able to be with you as frequently as we are now.
It's not going to be long. It's just.
But I don't similarly don't want you to sell yourself short on the good that you have brought to this community in the time that New Bern Now has been around. I mean, your mission thus far has aligned with any organization in this town, which is to what you said, promote, not demote. And I think in the world today, that's what people need more of, is to see more of the good and discover things about their communities and beyond that maybe they had never known to that point. And you have so many creative ideas, and you just never quit. So don't sell yourself short. And I think we're all looking forward to the version that you bring back anew to New Bern Now.
Thank you, guys.
I'll add to that, Wendy, just to echo what Susan and Colleen said, and what everyone else is thinking. Everybody needs time to center and to get perspective. And you've been working at this really hard. And the way you do it is you work 24/7. So it sounds like you need some time to just take a breath. But while you take that breath, just remember that, like particularly what you do on social media, it's always positive. And I truly believe that in the days we live in right now, and I don't know that it's all that different from the days we lived in since you started it, but the days we live in right now, people need more positive. And social media should be a place where you are building each other up, spreading joy, shining lights on special things and special people. And so my hope is that after you have this respite, whatever you focus on will be focused on that. Because I mean, I feel the exact same way. I don't ever put anything on my Facebook or social media that isn't something to build somebody up. I really, it's not, you're not going to change a mind of someone who disagrees with you, and it just turns into this bullying and derogatory stuff. And I've got no interest in that. I know you don't either. And so I think you're a good model for that, as providing local news and interest stories that are really trying to focus on good things. And so whatever you decide when you take this respite, I hope that's where you land, because I think you're really good at that. Yeah.
Well, I think Leslie Tall Manning really nailed it earlier when she said, you know, it was like writer's block, but it seems like I've had writer's block for a couple months now, and I'm just trying to, I know there's tons of great news stories, really great news stories. I just have been like, my brain is just bogged down with craziness,
Wendy.
so I just need to decompress. And so I really don't have plans to revamp like all this stuff. I just need to regroup, and look at our processes and what I will publish. And if I feel, that somebody wants me to publish something that I know is not totally accurate, I just don't find that I'm too morally conflicted, you know what I mean? So, but anyway, enough about me.
No,
What
one more
about
thing. Wendy, you haven't had a vacation in years. I know that you have said that before. So this respite is also, I think, vacation time. Just enjoy your time for a few, like put it out of your head for a while and just, fish or do all the things that you like to do and just enjoy life for a change instead of working 24/7.
And watch out for the bears when you're in the forest.
I hope I see them, but
Yes, let's see your artwork.
ready?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Is that not cool?
That's really
Yes. Now that is Ashley McDaniel.
Yes. And I'm not
Yeah.
sure what it represents, but it's really cool.
It is.
And I think that's pencil. I really need to learn more about different art mediums. And
it gives me a real Watership Down vibe. Do you guys remember that?
yes, definitely. Yes. So I need to ask Ashley what she was thinking. So, and this is by Carol Jones, our friend Carol Jones. It's a fish.
Makes us think about the summertime and the aquarium.
And the beach, the aquarium, and
It's a fish, like kind of like an old man's head with flowing hair behind it. It'd be kind of fun to see that in the soup.
that eye is looking at you, George. So,
The evil eye.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah. Anyhow, okay. Well, we're getting.
Is it time?
Do y'all have anything else? I just want to say thank you to people who, shout out on social media. Marianne LeRae, if you're still watching, you got to check out the farmhouse at Mill Creek. And for more details, I'm just going to do a short description. It is packed with character to make your getaway restful and relaxing. Maybe that's where I need to go. I bought a tent to take in the woods, but maybe I'm going there. So Jeremy LeRae, New Bern Web Design, New Bern Now's Peace of Mind. He's awesome. And Marianne LeRae, who is a Mary Kay power woman.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
It's
So,
true.
and
I have a couple things too.
I don't see any more comments. So Colleen.
So Wizard of Oz is showing at Lawson Creek Park tomorrow and Saturday. Both shows are sold out, but there is a waiting list, and some of those folks have gotten in to the shows. So I did want to mention that. Thank you, Parks and Rec, for putting that on this weekend. Going to be a warm weekend, but hopefully a lot of fun at the drive-in movie. Shout out to our guys who, maybe not today because it's been raining, but I don't know if you guys saw yesterday on South Front Street, we had our water resources crews and public works guys out there laying asphalt, doing some patching over a water sewer rehabilitation project. You know it's hot, drink lots of water. Thanks for all the hard work you do. And then the last thing is, in the midst of all this doom and gloom, I want folks to know that we're hiring. We have several jobs open. So if you are out of a job or looking for a job, want to move up in your job, we have just posted actually an administrative assistant, an equipment operator, a public safety telecommunicator, utility maintenance worker. We're doing all of the interviews via Zoom, so you won't need to come in to do the interview. NewBernNC.gov. So we're hiring. Come work for the city. Great benefits. So if you're sitting at home and wanting to take that next step forward, please visit our website and apply online.
That's fantastic, Colleen.
If I could piggyback on that, we're also hiring. We're looking for a paralegal. If you don't want to be a utility operator or I don't know, an asphalt guy or whatever, and you want to try something a little different, not to scoop you, Colleen, because I don't think we're not hiring paralegals. So we're looking for paralegals.
Just like that fish, I got my eye on you, George.
We are proud of our people. We've learned that one of them is taking a full-time teaching job. He's moving to Florida in August, and we have another paralegal who's a military spouse. Her husband has retired, and they have taken a job in Germany. Yeah, I know.
Deutsch.
I know. She's going to keep working for us part-time. There's a 5-hour time difference, so she's going to work from Stuttgart. At 8 o'clock in the morning here will be 1 o'clock in the afternoon there. So we'll have about 6 hours of together.
Wow.
We're going to make it work because she's wonderful.
Yeah.
But anyway, we are looking also. So just call Colleen if you want to be a paralegal.
Well,
and
go ahead,
yeah.
Wendy.
Okay, and I just want to say, if you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, send us an email at info@newbernnow.com or give me a call at 259-6853. And you can rewatch this broadcast on our YouTube. It will be on iTunes as a podcast. And we really appreciate New Bern's news talk radio station, WNOS 103.9 FM, for airing this show every Wednesday at 8 a.m. and 5 p.m.
George,
Colleen or George?
or is it me? Are we ready?
What is it? No, it's Rich. Where's Rich?
Cue Rich.
Rich.
Well, that's a wrap, folks. We want to thank you for joining us and thank you for listening today. And most of all, stay safe out there. Be careful in the heat that's headed to Eastern NC this weekend, and have a great day. Love you, Wendy.
Thank you. Love you
Yeah.
guys.
Love you, Wendy.
Bye, everybody.
I don't know how to do that. Have a great day.
Yes,
Bye.
Wendy. Take care.
See you on the flip side.
That was right.